Kestis was a Padawan in the Jedi Order. His teacher was Jaro Tapal, a Jedi Master, a Force-sensitive Lasat male. It was the time of the Clone Wars. Thus, Jaro held the rank of general and commanded the operations of the 13th Battalion of Clones. Recently, the Republic cruiser with the 13th Battalion and the Jedi was in orbit around the planet Bracca, and Cal was undergoing constant training under the guidance of his teacher. Moreover, Cal was not the simplest student and possessed some unique abilities. Firstly, there is psychometry, the ability to see the past through objects via the Force echoes emanating from things. Cal could touch an object and see its past, its owner, the feelings that owner experienced, and even the person's memories. But Cal couldn't control this and couldn't fully learn to harness psychokinesis. Secondly, Cal was capable of creating force stasis. This ability allows one to forcibly stop or slow down various objects, whether a person, an object, or even a blaster shot. Both abilities are very rare and are essentially a new canon. In fact, I actually like how the different parts of the Star Wars lore are now intertwining. Initially, I wasn't fond of it because stasis was shown in the new trilogy, and now it has to be inserted everywhere. But actually, they've decided to use this technique beyond the new trilogy. For example, Vader managed to use stasis on a bomb thrown at him in his own 2017 comic. Hypothetically, it would be very impressive to see a bomb explode in slow motion. We've also already seen psychometry. Only one Jedi, Quinlan Vos, in the animated series The Clone Wars back in 2010 demonstrated this ability. So, with two rare abilities, Cal would obviously have reached great heights, especially since he had a rather good teacher. But Order 66 is Order 66. Sensing trouble, Jaro Tapal managed to kill the clones attacking him and decided to escape the ship with his student. They almost succeeded. However, at the last moment, at the emergency escape pods, the Jedi Master was shot with a blaster, and the wound proved to be fatal. However, the Jedi Master, on his way to the escape pods, managed to overload the spaceship's reactor, causing the cruiser to explode right after the pod carrying the Padawan and his dying teacher flew towards Bracca, in the orbit of which they were located. Because of this, no one pursued Cal, and he was presumed dead. Thus, Cal ended up alone on Bracca, a garbage planet engaged in the dismantling of various spaceships. There was plenty of work there due to the Clone Wars. The truth is, Bracca was with the Separatists, so when the droids lost and the planet came under the control of the newly formed Empire, working conditions there became harsh. Consequently, Cal took up dismantling old ships there for the next 5 years of his life. Until around 14, before the Battle of Yavin, according to the galactic calendar, which is essentially 14 years before the events of the fourth part of Star Wars. In fact, he was fortunate not to be found, as various conflicts occurred on the planet. That same year, a defective batch arrived to search one of the blown-up Republic Venator-class star destroyers for equipment to extract the inhibitor chip that forced compliance with orders. However, they didn't find Cal. Without resolving his psychological issues and burying his feelings, he joined the Scrapper Guild. The young man also made friends, among whom was the Abednego Prauf, who became quite close to him. The guys even planned to leave the planet together, but misfortune struck. One day during their routine work, Prauf nearly fell to his death. However, Cal saved his friend by using the Force. Of course, other workers noticed this and quickly reported the Force user to the Imperial Inquisition, which was right there. Consequently, the friend's recently saved life was once again in danger, along with Cal's own life. Thus, the former Padawan revealed himself and attempted to escape from the Imperials. Initially, he managed to do so, but he was ultimately caught by an Inquisitor. Cal tried to resist, but without training and practice in lightsaber combat, he was unable to fend off the so-called Second Sister. If not for external help, Cal would have become the Inquisition's prey. Helping the former Padawan is the ship Stinger Mantis with a crew of just 2. Grease Dritus, the pilot, and Siri Junda, a former Jedi Master, who also survived Order 66 and personally saw the legendary Jedi archive burn, and due to her tragic past has renounced the use of the Force. Cal doesn't fully trust these two yet, but they saved him. Ciri introduces Cal to her mission, that since he is a Jedi, he can greatly help them in their fight against the Empire. Thus, the newly formed trio sets out to revive the Jedi Order. They even have a plan to achieve this goal. The thing is, Ciri knows a secret, the location of a holocron that contains the coordinates of numerous Force-sensitive children. Find them, train them, and you will have a mighty force capable of restoring balance to the galaxy. But the former Jedi has severed her connection to the Force. That's why she needs Cal. The team arrives on Bogano, where there is an ancient temple of a long-lost civilization known as the Zepho. And inside this temple is the repository of information with the necessary holocron. On his way to the temple, Cal discovers the droid BD-1. And, as it turns out, the droid also needs to get into this repository for some reason. They team up and help each other get to the temple. Of course, this was not a coincidence. This little droid is a key to the holocron. The point is, the droid belonged to Ciri's teacher, Jedi Master Eno Cordova. He was an archaeologist studying the ancient, now extinct, Force-sensitive race known as the Zepho. It was not the essence of their philosophy, as it resembled the teachings of the Jedi and the light side. During his research, he received a vision that the Jedi Order would fall. Accepting this as inevitable, Cordova decided to provide an opportunity to revive the Jedi path and hid the Order's holocron in a Zepho vault on Bogano, keeping this secret from everyone. To ensure that no one could easily access it, he designed a lengthy quest, a well-thought-out path including various trials and visits to other temples, tombs of the Zepho race. At each significant location Cordova visited, he made a holographic recording on the droid BD-1 and programmed it so that the recording would only play in a specific place. In this way, the Chosen One would have to follow exactly the same path that Master Cordova once traveled. They would have to delve into the Zepho philosophy, prove their worth, and only then obtain the holocron in their hands. Thus, Cal Kestis begins his journey. In the first recording, Cordova pointed to the home planet of the Zepho, which conveniently still bears the same name as the extinct race. There, Cal needed to find the first temple on his path. During his stay on the planet, Cal discovers that the Empire had already been there and was planning to extract all the artifacts of the extinct race. For this, they bluntly intended to drill their way through. The artifact extraction project was simply called Project Augur. However, due to electronic failures, the project was abandoned, leaving only a stormtrooper outpost. Nevertheless, Cal manages to infiltrate the temple and begins to recall everything he had learned previously. His connection to the Force began to reawaken. He reached the location where another message from Cordova played, indicating the planet Kashyyyk. Cordova was certain that the Zepho had visited there, and thus the Wookiee chieftain Tarful might know something about it. So, they set course for Kashyyyk. There, our team discovers pockets of resistance against the Empire, which the stormtroopers are trying to crush with brute force. Cal decides to intervene, hoping to find Tarful among the resistance and to help prevent the loss of lives. Literally, they are landing on a massive AT-AT and offer support to the resistance, simultaneously destroying significant enemy forces and eventually helping to free imprisoned Wookiees. They do not find Tarful, but the resistance members promise to locate the Wookiee chieftain and arrange a meeting with him. With nothing else to do for now, the team learns that on the previous Zepho planet, the Imperials had reinstated their project and were clearly interested in other temples of the ancient extinct race there. Therefore, Cal decides to return and investigate another temple that the Imperials might have discovered. He infiltrates their excavations and encounters the Inquisitor, the Second Sister. During aggressive negotiations, it becomes clear that the Inquisition has already uncovered everything about Jedi Master Eno Cordova and the holocron containing the Force-sensitive children, meaning that the group of potential Jedi might now become potential Inquisitors. Cal nevertheless manages to fend off the Second Sister, after which he learns the truth about why his companion, Cere Junda, no longer uses the Force. She was captured by the Inquisition. Cere was tortured, and the Jedi could not withstand it, thus revealing the location of the younglings and her Padawan, Trilla. Ciri had mentioned this to Cal before, though not in full detail, as the second sister is none other than Trilla herself. After the torture, feeling betrayed by her teacher, the Padawan naturally turned to the dark side. She came to her teacher, Ciri, which caused Ciri to snap and use the dark side. This allowed the Jedi to escape, but she was too scared and thus cut off her connection with the Force to avoid stepping onto the dark side. Nevertheless, Cal continues his journey, eluding the Inquisitors. Cal sets off with the stormtroopers, who have already managed to infiltrate the temple, and finds the next clue. In it, Cordova reports that there is an artifact called the Astrium, which, when used by a Force wielder, will uncover the secrets of the Bogano Vault. Cal was already making his way back to his ship when he is intercepted by bounty hunters. They knock him out and send him to the arena. Overall, this is not important for the main plot of the first part, but these mercenaries hold some significance for the book. Therefore, we will pause here briefly. Cal is captured by Sork Tormo, the leader of local bandits and a group known as Haxion Brood, to whom our friend Pilot Grease owes a debt. The truth is, he lied to the crew about having fully repaid his debts. That is why the mercenaries went after Cal as compensation for the debt, believing a Jedi could make for a spectacular show in the arena. Cal fights various creatures and bounty hunters until the Stinger Mantis arrives at the arena's epicenter, and the crew takes Cal with them. Of course, a minor conflict arises here, as both friends lied to our character. Due to Grease's debts, mercenaries captured Cal, and Ciri had not fully disclosed about her Padawan now hunting them, nor her inclination towards the dark side. However, these wounds in trust somehow strengthened the bond between Grease and Cal, at least to some extent. Meanwhile, a message comes from the Resistance on Kashyyyk that Cal can come, and they will arrange a meeting with Chief Tarful. The crew immediately acts and learns that Cordova once climbed to the top of the Origin Tree, one of the largest plants on the planet and sacred to the local inhabitants. On his way to the top of the tree, Cal continues to recall his mentor's lessons, overcoming obstacles until he encounters yet another Inquisitor. This time, it is the ninth sister. Cal engages in a fight and even defeats her, cutting off her hand and then launching her into the air using the Force. Cal also finds the next clue, which leads to Dathomir, to the next tomb of an ancient civilization where he heads. There, Cal encounters Night Sister Merrin. Merrin turned out to be the last Night Sister, just as Cal Kestis thinks about himself. All the other Night Sisters were destroyed at the end of the Clone Wars, so a connection immediately forms between them. But the girl now demands that Cal leave and never return, believing that Jedi bring only misfortune. Naturally, Cal cannot leave, so Merrin sets the Night Brothers, Dathomirian men of the Zabrak race, on him, which doesn't greatly hinder the journey but does lengthen it a bit. And on our long journey we meet the mysterious wanderer, Taron Malicos. They exchange a few words and Cal continues on his way. But the identity of this old man will still play a role. Nevertheless, Cal Kestis eventually reaches the temple. But this time the gates inside do not open for him. Instead, the Jedi is overwhelmed by visions. He remembers going through another lesson with his master when clones suddenly attacked them, and they tried to escape. However, in reality, due to a minor mistake by the Padawan, his master perished. And in the continuation of the visions, he meets his master again. However, the visions of his past do not end there but continue, and the deceased Jaro Tapal begins to blame the student for his death and attacks. He grabs Cal's lightsaber and breaks it. As a result, when Cal Kestis snaps out of his visions, he sees that his lightsaber is indeed broken. The temple doors, of course, did not open, so he has no choice but to return. And at the exit, he sees Taron Malicos again, who turns out to be a former Jedi who survived Order 66, and Malicos suggests that we join forces to survive and learn all the hidden powers. The conversation is interrupted by Sister Merrin, who was deceived by Malicos, for the former Jedi had been saying that all Jedi were bad and should not be dealt with, yet he himself wanted to recruit one of them as an apprentice for help or something like that. Therefore, Merrin loses her temper and summons her Night Sisters, who rise from the dead and attack the Jedi. Malicos starts fighting, buying us a little time, and we, without a weapon, escape and fly away on the Mantis. The situation is unpleasant, a Jedi without a saber, so we have to make a detour to the most notable planet, Elam. Once upon a time, younglings of the Order, under the guidance of an experienced Jedi, would obtain kyber crystals for their lightsabers there by undergoing various trials. Now it is Cal's turn. We acquire what seems to be one of the last crystals, and at one point, we even lose hope, as the crystal we found is shattered. But our droid inspires and instills new hope in us. We then notice that, yes, it is shattered, but it's not a problem because now it's 2 crystals, therefore 2 sabers. Combining the hilt of his master Jaro Tapal and the old saber of Siri, we create our own double-bladed lightsaber. Armed, we return to Dathomir, where, after similar introductions as the last time, the gates open before us as these were the next trials, which this time the Jedi successfully passed. Inside, Cal meets Sister Merrin again, and a dialogue ensues in which Kestis tries to convince her of his best intentions, even giving her his most valuable possession, his saber, as a gesture of trust. Cal's words and actions convince Merrin, and she recounts her own story of how her kin were slaughtered during her childhood, and how the Jedi Malicos came, deceived her, and used her to learn the secrets of the Night Sisters. It is with this very Malicos that Cal must face next. Taran attempts to persuade Cal to join him, using arguments evidently from the adept of the dark side. But naturally Cal refuses, and a battle ensues. Initially we fight alone and lose, but at the last moment, Merrin joins us, and together we defeat Malicos, sealing him literally in stone, and then continue our journey into the tomb together. Merrin even helps overcome some obstacles, and ultimately, we finally find the coveted artifact on Dathomir, the Astrium, and along with it a new companion, as Merrin accepts Kestis's proposal to embark on a journey with the crew of the Stinger Mantis. Thus, Cal is at the finish line, left only to fly to Bogano and use the Astrium to obtain the holocron. However, no one yet contemplates the consequences of finding the holocron, where the locations of all Force-sensitive children are recorded. And Merrin, so to speak, with a fresh perspective, voices a sensible thought that Imperials will seek the children if Cal and Siri start reviving the Order. A real hunt will be declared. Perhaps they were set up, as it would be much easier for the Empire to find all these children and obtain the holocron for themselves than it would be for a team of 4 people. Wouldn't it be easier to ensure their safety and destroy the Astrium or even the holocron? But no one listens to her, as they believe all their efforts would have been in vain otherwise. Thus, Cal ventures into the vault, where he naturally encounters more visions. At first, he sees the very representatives of the extinct Zepho race, and then a possible future, where he gathered the children as he wanted, began to teach them. But naturally, the Imperials found them, started killing the younglings one by one, and Cal, unable to help and save them, literally crawls among their corpses. Showing all these possible futures, in the end, Cal himself becomes a part of the dark side, joining the service of the Empire as an Inquisitor. But this is merely a vision. He overcomes them and reaches the holocron. However, Cal is not alone in the temple, and the Inquisition is already there in the person of the second sister Trilla. They fight and Kestis prevails over the sister, but his own powers betray him. Let me remind you that Cal possesses psychometry, thanks to which he feels echoes of the Force in objects and can see the past of the owner. Cal defeats Trilla and draws her lightsaber, causing him to experience visions of the Inquisitor's past. Cal feels all the darkness and pain that Trilla felt, sees how her master abandoned her, how the stormtroopers came for her and began to torture her, how they turned her to the dark side, and how Siri nearly crossed the line by using the terrifying power of the dark side. Because of all this horror, the Jedi simply loses consciousness, and when he comes to, neither the Inquisitor nor the holocron are anywhere nearby. Cal tells the team what happened, and they decide on a desperate step, penetrating the heart of the Empire, the Inquisitorius, to retrieve the holocron and prevent the Empire from reaching the children. The Mantis reaches the planet Nur, where the Fortress Inquisitorius is located. Thanks to Merrin's magic, crabs manage to hide and stealthily fly to the planet, where Ciri and Cal land and try to infiltrate the fortress. Cal makes his way underwater, conducts several diversions, and reaches the holocron, where Trilla naturally awaits him for a rematch. Cal again prevails, but just then her former teacher Ciri arrives, managing to speak with her student, and perhaps Trilla might even have returned to the light side if he hadn't shown up. The Mantis crew is confronted by none other than Darth Vader, a threat that neither Cal nor Ciri will ever be ready for. By some miracle, they escape from him, and it seems they've eluded him. But Vader once again catches up with the Jedi. Cal nearly dies, and would have perished if not for Ciri's intervention, who managed to temporarily withstand the might of the Dark Lord, and even bring him to his knees, all thanks to once again utilizing the power of the dark side. But Cal intervenes, preventing Ciri from being entirely consumed, and shatters the glass of the corridor, bringing down with it a torrent of water that floods everything, forcing Vader to hold back the flow with the Force. Meanwhile, the heroes escape on the Mantis, taking the holocron with them. The team celebrates their victory. Merrin even hugs Cal, rejoicing that he is alive and well. They decide to destroy the holocron and trust the fate of the children to the Force, essentially saving all the Force-sensitive from the clutches of the Empire. Thus ends the first part of the game, but not the story of the Mantis crew, as there is a whole 5-year gap between the two parts. Initially from the trailers, it wasn't clear what had happened to the crew or why Cal was traveling alone. But it turns out that a book about the continuation of their adventures was released. It is called Star Wars Jedi: Battlescar. The book's events unfold a couple of years after the first part, meaning practically right in the middle of the timeline. The Mantis crew had already gelled and knew each other well. They acted quite cohesively and were an excellent strike team, quickly landing, completing their mission, and departing. Merrin acted as an active operative and fought alongside Cal. He even admired her Night Sister skills, considering her far more powerful than himself. One such situation involved an attack on the mercenary base of Haxian Brood, the very same that had captured Cal the first time. The actions of this group tormented the entire sector, and on top of that, Grease owed them. So why not reduce the debt? The team's task was to plant explosive charges at key points of the base, which was located on a bandit asteroid, and detonate the explosions remotely. Cal and Merrin planted all the charges, while Ciri coordinated them and Grease waited as the pilot, and naturally, everything went awry. At some point, Cal discovered there were not only mercenaries on the base, but also stormtroopers. Consequently, he gave himself away, and a skirmish broke out. Merrin, in her clash with the stormtroopers, killed almost everyone except one. The last stormtrooper surrendered and said he wanted to defect. Thus, Cal and Merrin took him with them onto the Mantis. On board, the stormtrooper was given a chance to speak. It turned out to be a certain Chelwinark Frethelrin, or just Fret for short. She was a representative of the Keshiri race, which was already unusual for stormtroopers, as they typically only recruited humans. But Fret wasn't really a full-fledged stormtrooper. She was an ordinary data analyst, and immediately began recounting her sad story of how the Empire had wronged her and her family. In exchange for being saved, she offered the Mantis crew an important mission as a reward, related to something that could help in the fight against the Empire. This intrigued the team, and they agreed to help Fret. However, her presence on the ship caused some discord among the crew. Ciri and Grease have endured much from the Empire and are distrustful of the stormtrooper, while Cal and Merrin are more sympathetic towards the defector. Cal is just a kind-hearted guy, ready to accept and forgive everyone, and Merrin has clearly begun to develop some feelings for Fret. Ultimately, the Mantis crew was supposed to land on a specific planet and meet with an informant. He was a fairly influential figure in the sector and was not pleased with the pressure from the Empire. Therefore, he told the team that the Empire had blueprints for a stealth system, which allows the user to remain undetectable to all sensors, whether radar or human eyes, effectively making the object completely invisible. Naturally, why should they let the Empire have this thing when they could take it for themselves? However, the inventor of the technology was killed. The data card with the blueprints remained, though, and it was located at an Imperial base in the prison block of a nearby planet. The Inquisition would soon come to retrieve it for the development and creation of a prototype. Naturally, upon learning this, the Mantis crew could not remain idle and agreed to undertake this mission, immediately setting off. During the flight, only one event of interest occurs. Fret starts flirting with Merrin, and then they kiss and seclude themselves in the engineering bay. Meanwhile, Cal examines Fret's armor, touches it, and sees memories of the former stormtrooper, how she had a relationship with a certain reptilian woman, and how she refused to leave the Empire and run away with her beloved Iray, adding further to the distrust of Fret. But Cal keeps this information to himself. The next day, the team begins executing their plan, which involves Fret using her data analyst connections to get Cal and Merrin onto the base with access codes she still possesses. Once there, they are to locate the cell and retrieve the data card. Naturally, things are not so simple. As soon as the crew reaches the base, Ciri checks the access codes and discovers they are outdated. Cal immediately pins Fret in her stormtrooper armor, activates his lightsaber, and starts asking her tough questions about how this could happen. Fret then confesses that she never left Imperial service and did not desert. But she wants to help the team to finally leave Imperial service. Without the codes, they switch to Plan B, and they free the whole prison block of inmates. This creates the necessary commotion to steal the data card. More precisely, when they reached the chamber where the data map was supposed to be, they found the very same lizard woman, Iray, whom Cal had seen in Fret's memories. It turns out that the former lover, who was considered dead, is in fact the inventor of the Stealth project and is still alive. In complete chaos, Fret and Iray escape, leaving the team behind, while Cal and Merrin engage in battle with the Imperials, particularly the Inquisitor stormtroopers. During this fight, Merrin showcases her full power, demonstrating how impressive she is and how effortlessly she deals with the Imperials, even resurrecting the dead to fight on her side immediately. But eventually, the Inquisitor known as the Fifth Brother arrives. Cal sends Merrin to the ship and stays behind to confront the Inquisitor alone. However, he loses the fight, and the Fifth Inquisitor beats Cal, causing him to lose consciousness. Our hero would have died if not for Ciri's timely arrival. Meanwhile, Merrin reaches the ship, and Grease, worried about neither Cal nor Ciri returning, goes to help them, arming each of his 4 hands with blasters. Grease finds the group right when Cal is lying unconscious and Ciri is nearly defeating the Inquisitor. But instead of leaving or killing the Inquisitor, she naturally tries to bring him back to the light side. The Inquisitor seizes this foolish opportunity, breaks free, and manages to sever Grease's arm before finally being entombed under the rubble. Regardless, it is during these events that Grease lost his arm, which you can see in the second part of the game. In the end, everyone gets to the ship, even Fret with her girlfriend. However, trust within the team is completely shattered. Fret is accused of betrayal and recklessness, causing team members to suffer. In turn, she blames Ciri for Grease's loss of limb, which disappoints and even disheartens Cal. Merrin is generally confused about how to proceed, given that Fret's former lover is alive and well, complicating their relationship. Ultimately, the team decides to take a 48-hour break on the nearest safe planet to resolve their relationships and then decide what to do next. It would have been great if, at this point, they had gone their separate ways, leading to the plot of the second part. This would logically explain everything happening there. But no, everyone reconciles peacefully. Ciri and Cal resolve their conflict, Merrin and Fret agree to remain friends but share a last kiss, and Grease, well, everyone just forgets about him. But he is a kind guy, so he holds no grudges against anyone. In reality, the book continues to unravel this tangled web of the lizard woman's invention. Simplifying things, it turns out that the informant betrayed them and wanted to take the invention for themselves. Naturally, the Fifth Inquisitor, who did not die under the rubble, intervenes. To escape, they decide to turn the stealth project into a massive bomb, all villains perish, and our heroes take their leave. Fret, along with his lover, leaves the ship, while the rest of the crew remains together for a while longer. However, a seed of discord has already been sown among them. With the conflict between Ciri and Cal, Grease's severed hand, Merrin, who has seen this world and people, fallen in love for the first time, and now desires to see everything. Therefore, although the team is still together at the end of the book, it's clear why they eventually part ways. All this was compounded by the fact that the struggle had dragged on for too long. The second part of the game tells us that 5 years have passed since the first. Cal is being escorted as a captive by mercenaries to Coruscant to meet a certain senator, Daho Sejan. It quickly becomes apparent that our capture was merely a ruse for the senator, and that the mercenaries who caught us are actually Cal's allies and his new team, with whom Cal worked for the ever-fighting Saw Gerrera. The team members aren't particularly important to us, except for our new regular companion Bode, who fights the Empire to safeguard his only daughter, his wife naturally having been destroyed by the same Empire, thus giving the guy motivation. Their mission, as always, is to gather information about the locations of crucial Imperial bases and tactical data to subsequently hinder the Empire. The team even manages to take the Senator hostage, but then everything goes awry. The Inquisition appears, led by the Ninth Sister, the same one Cal fought. As it turns out, she didn't die from the fall. The Ninth kills the Senator and begins chasing Cal's team. Eventually, all the members except Cal and Bode die. Seeing this outcome, Cal vows to avenge the Ninth Sister, and we remember that hatred is a direct path to the dark side, but more on that later. Finding the Ninth Sister, Cal manages to gain control over his emotions and offers the Inquisitor a chance to surrender. Well, no. Cal escapes from Coruscant, but during the escape, the Mantis ship was damaged and urgently needed repair. Therefore, the Jedi heads to his old friend Grease on the planet Kobo. After all, no one knows the ship better than its former owner. A crash landing, a bit of platforming, and here we are in a small settlement. In it, Cal witnesses a couple of bandits attempting to deal with a creature that sold them a counterfeit artifact. This creature is named Ravis, and I advise you to remember his name. Cal, of course, intervenes on behalf of the unfortunate being, and Ravis orders his partner to kill the Jedi. His partner is practically no match. We parry, strike, and emerge victorious. Watching this, Ravis decides to simply leave peacefully. Then, Cal enters a bar and meets up with Grease. There he talks about the situation on Coruscant and how dispirited he feels, believing that his actions are making no difference. From the information they obtained from the Senator, it turns out that the Empire is growing stronger, and in the 5 years he's been fighting here, nothing has changed. Imperial bases are everywhere now. Their number has increased 5,000-fold, and they are literally spread throughout the galaxy already. Therefore, Grease tries to convince Cal to stop this fight. He hasn't changed anything and won't be able to change anything, only putting his life in danger. However, for Cal, there is no other way. It seems he doesn't need another life. He only desires to fight the Empire. After talking, Grease sends Cal to a smuggler's cave beneath his saloon, where he can find some ship parts. And in there, Cal accidentally discovers ancient ruins, as well as an old droid, model ZNA-4, or simply Z, from the High Republic era, which is about 200 years old. So, finding the old droid named Z, Cal learns about its past using his ability. It turns out that 200 years ago, a Jedi entrusted the droid with a key that can lead to Tanalorr. This is a planet that was meant to be a bastion for the Jedi Order. It is surrounded by a mysterious nebula, preventing anyone from reaching the planet's orbit. And all the ships that try to pass through this nebula invariably perish. However, the secret route to the Jedi Bastion is on this disk. Cal activates Z, and together they return to Grease, who has already been visited by the only surviving member of the new team, Bode. They decide that Grease and Bode will go to repair the Mantis, while Cal heads to the next Jedi temple mentioned in the vision. Additionally, Z hands over the key to the temple to Cal. We rummage through the garbage, struggle with poor optimization, and find the Jedi temple. There, Cal explores various chambers with the help of the key, fights his way through and discovers a strange Bacta tank with a humanoid missing its right arm. The best way to get acquainted naturally is once again through psychometry. Very convenient indeed. Cal, in his vision about this character, sees two Jedi Santari cry from a past vision, and Dagan Gera, between whom there are clearly very warm feelings. 200 years ago, Dagan was building a Jedi temple on Tanalorr. It was his creation, his idea. And at the very last moment, when everything was practically ready and the Council was supposed to come to the planet to approve it as a new bastion, the Nihil invade Tanalorr. This is such a new old force that opposed the Jedi during the peak of the Republic. And at this point, the vision cuts off. Dagan felt the presence of a Jedi and asked to be freed. Without hesitation, Cal deactivates the Bacta tank. Well, it's a former Jedi. What could go wrong? Then he informs Dagan that 200 years have passed. The Sith have taken control of the galaxy, and now we have not a republic, but an empire. But together, they can resist and bring back the Republic. Listening to all this, Dagan is even pleased that the Order is no more, and in just a few seconds changes the color of his lightsaber crystal to red and attacks Cal. It turns out that at the moment of the attack on Tanalorr, the Order gave the command to leave the planet, but the Jedi did not want to surrender and give away the work of his entire life. He considered the Order's action a betrayal, and did not wish to leave it at that, especially since the planet could be reclaimed if the Council had sent some forces to assist. Therefore, essentially, he turns to the dark side at that moment, for which he was left in the Bacta tank for an indefinite period. Cal does not like this at all. He freed some guy from the dark side. They argue about it and start fighting. The battle between the two Jedi is interrupted by Ravis, the very giant whom Cal encountered at Grease's cantina. It turns out that he is some sort of super long liver and is Dagan's partner, a loyal henchman, and together they escape. Okay, we need to find out more about this Dagan, Tanalorr, and the rest. Therefore, Cal, Merrin, and Bode head to their other old acquaintance, Siri, who has settled on the moon, Jeddah. After all, a former Jedi who loves various archives might give some insight regarding Tanalorr and this Dagan. Again, you've already seen the moon Jeddah in the movie Rogue One. It is considered one of the first worlds where the Jedi developed, and therefore contains a lot of secrets, semi-destroyed statues of people with lightsabers, and various followers of the light side. So the place the bald assistant chose was not random. Moreover, Siri, after the disbandment of the team, did not sit idle. She found her mentor, Eno Cordova. Then Merrin joined them after her travels, and together they recreated the Jedi Order archive. This is how Siri closed her gestalt, for as a reminder she witnessed with her own eyes the burning of the Jedi Order archives during Order 66, and at the same time they created the so-called hidden path, through which they helped anyone wishing to hide from the Empire. In essence, once again, you have seen this hidden path if you watched Obi-Wan Kenobi. Together, the old crew realizes that as the Empire grows stronger and is present in almost every system, Tanalorr might be the only place where Jedi and other people hiding from the Empire can live peacefully. Hence begins the quest for devices called compasses, which are supposed to help pass through an impassable nebula. Detailing the search for these compasses makes no sense, as it does not affect the overall picture. Well, except that after finding the second compass, Merrin and Cal kiss. But that's not particularly important. Having found the two compasses, Siri's mentor, Cordova, says that they are irreparable. However, they managed to learn much more about Tanalorr. During the height of the Republic, the Jedi discovered this abyss, which intrigued them, wondering what it might conceal. Naturally, they tried countless times to traverse it, and numerous times lost people and ships until the very Dagan crossed it alone. Afterward, Santari Curie came to his aid in developing a safe passage with whom, I remind you, he had quite warm feelings, and she was able to create these compasses for a safe passage through the abyss. Ships could fly to the planet, and a couple of Jedi managed to build a small settlement and a Jedi temple there. But, as I already mentioned, just before presenting the project to the Jedi Order, a group opposing the Jedi, the Nihil, managed to steal the compass and get to Tanalorr. Following this, the Republic and the Order decided to abandon the planet, and the Council ordered Santari to destroy all the compasses. Naturally, Dagon disagreed with this position and rebelled against the Order. Cordova also managed to find out that there were only 3 compasses. Cal had already found 2, but they were completely broken. Meanwhile, the crew learns that Dagon's thugs captured and took the very ancient droid Z. So the team sets off to Dagon's base, which is an old Trade Federation ship. Naturally, fighting through a crowd of droids, Cal finds Z and also discovers that Dagon knows where the 3rd compass is. Ultimately, they naturally start a fight, and no one emerges as the clear victor. Hence, Cal's new friend Bode intervenes, after which Dagon retreats. I want to separately mention that Bode gives us his blaster, which is very convenient to use alongside the lightsaber. So the trail was lost, but one clue remained, the shattered moon of the planet. For it was there that Dagon dispatched his acolyte Ravis. So the place the bald assistant chose was not random. Moreover, Ciri, after the disbandment of the team, did not sit idle. She found her mentor, Eno Cordova. Then Merrin joined them after her travels, and together they recreated the Jedi Order archive. This is how Ciri closed her gestalt, for as a reminder she witnessed with her own eyes the burning of the Jedi Order archives during Order 66, and at the same time they created the so-called hidden path, through which they helped anyone wishing to hide from the Empire. In essence, once again, you have seen this hidden path if you watched Obi-Wan Kenobi. Together, the old crew realizes that as the Empire grows stronger and is present in almost every system, Tanalorr might be the only place where Jedi and other people hiding from the Empire can live peacefully. Hence begins the quest for devices called compasses, which are supposed to help pass through an impassable nebula. Detailing the search for these compasses makes no sense, as it does not affect the overall picture. Well, except that after finding the second compass, Merrin and Cal kiss. But that's not particularly important. Having found the 2 compasses, Ciri's mentor, Cordova, says that they are irreparable. However, they managed to learn much more about Tanalorr. During the height of the Republic, the Jedi discovered this abyss, which intrigued them, wondering what it might conceal. Naturally, they tried countless times to traverse it, and numerous times lost people and ships until the very Dagon crossed it alone. Afterward, Santari Curie came to his aid in developing a safe passage, with whom, I remind you, he had quite warm feelings, and she was able to create these compasses for a safe passage through the abyss. Ships could fly to the planet, and a couple of Jedi managed to build a small settlement and a Jedi temple there. But, as I already mentioned, just before presenting the project to the Jedi Order, a group opposing the Jedi, the Nihil, managed to steal the compass and get to Tanalorr. Following this, the Republic and the Order decided to abandon the planet, and the Council ordered Santari to destroy all the compasses. Naturally, Dagon disagreed with this position and rebelled against the Order. Cordova also managed to find out that there were only 3 compasses. Cal had already found 2, but they were completely broken. Meanwhile, the crew learns that Dagon's thugs captured and took the very ancient droid Z. So the team sets off to Dagon's base, which is an old Trade Federation ship. Naturally, fighting through a crowd of droids, Cal finds Z and also discovers that Dagon knows where the 3rd compass is. Ultimately, they naturally start a fight, and no one emerges as the clear victor. Hence, Cal's new friend Bode intervenes, after which Dagon retreats. I want to separately mention that Bode gives us his blaster, which is very convenient to use alongside the lightsaber. So the trail was lost, but one clue remained, the shattered moon of the planet. For it was there that Dagon dispatched his acolyte Ravis. Meanwhile, significant forces of Dagon's faction had gathered on the moon, and to go undetected, Merrin used an old trick to make the ship invisible, allowing for a safe landing. Once on the moon, through his psychometry, Cal sees the memories of Santari Curie, during which we learn that it was she who prevented Dagon from going to Tanalorr when the Republic abandoned the planet, and she was the one who cut off the rebellious Jedi's arm, after which he was placed in a Bacta tank. Thus ended their friendship. Afterward, Cal faces Ravis in a one-on-one battle. Cal claims victory and, out of respect for his opponent and his martial honor, kills Ravus, as it was his great desire, and he harbored strong hatred towards the Jedi for not killing him as a warrior last time. During the narrative, we discover that the compass is located in the Jedi Observatory, and Dagan is already heading there. The team returns to the planet, where Imperial forces and Dagan's thugs have already clashed. Cal and Bodhi eventually locate Dagan. Conversations, of course, lead nowhere, and the final battle with our antagonist begins. In a fierce struggle, Cal and Bodhi fight against Dagan, with Cal even sustaining serious injuries but miraculously defeating and killing the treacherous Jedi. One might think, here's the end of the story, but no. The heroes take the compass and head to Jeddah, where it is revealed who the real Jedi traitor is. We bring the compass to Cordova, and this particular device can be repaired. The team rests, sipping tea, and ponders the future. How they will transport some people to Tanalorr, how the Jedi will be able to hide there from the Empire, train, and so on. Bodhi will be able to shelter his daughter there and be safe. However, the next day, when Cordova fixes the compass, the Empire arrives immediately and begins deploying its troops. Naturally, this is no coincidence, for the true traitor is Bodhi. It was he who summoned the Empire, having worked for them all this time. Bodhi kills Cordova and escapes with the compass. Cal immediately gives chase. He catches up with Bodhi and engages in a battle where it is revealed that our friend is also a Jedi who survived the Purge but was found by the Empire and ultimately ended up working for them. Bodhi, using the Force, pushes Cal off a cliff, causing him to fall and lose consciousness. Meanwhile, the hidden path is under threat, as stormtroopers have seriously begun their assault on the Jedi refuge. Ciri and Merrin are busy defending the path while the others evacuate. But naturally they need to save the contact codes that can reveal the path's location. Ciri and Merrin successfully fend off the attackers and even blow up a couple of AT-STs. But there are too many stormtroopers, so everyone retreats to evacuate, and Ciri goes to destroy the contact code to prevent it from falling into the Empire's hands. She succeeds, but she encounters a formidable adversary. Darth Vader once again. Ciri grants him a rematch, and does not give in as easily as the first time. She even wounds Vader. However, we know well that Vader will not die, yet we lose Ciri in the process. The Sith Lord achieves his goal from the previous encounter. He leaves the battlefield as the victor. After some time, Cal returns to the ashes, where he retrieves the fallen Cordova and Ciri. Now the team ponders how to locate the traitor and the compass. They remember that Bodhi often recorded messages for his daughter, through which they discover her at the Imperial Security Bureau base, where Cal immediately heads. He infiltrates the base, finds Senior Security Officer Denvik, and through conversation learns that it was Denvik who sent Bodhi to infiltrate Cal's team. But we also learn that Bodhi deliberately left all these audio logs, which could lead them to the Imperial base. The purpose being for Cal to come here and destroy everything, thereby covering Bodhi's flight to Tanalorr. Thus it turns out that Bodhi is against everyone, only for himself. Cal reaches his daughter named Kata, and Bodhi soon arrives as well. He then enters into a dialogue with Cal, telling his sad story. He speaks of the Purge, of how he, being a Jedi, managed to survive, how he lost his wife due to the Inquisition, and was forced to agree to cooperate so that he and his daughter would not be hunted down. During the conversation, Cal's attention wavers slightly, which Bodhi successfully exploits and attempts to escape, simultaneously raising the alarm and sicking stormtroopers on Cal. This drives Cal into a furious rage, and he begins to embrace the darkness within himself. Cal swiftly and mercilessly kills everyone in his path with a power that was previously unavailable to him. For the dark side significantly strengthened Cal. Neither stormtroopers nor droids nor Inquisitor purgers can stop us, and only Merrin manages to calm Cal and bring him back to the light. The question remains, for how long? However, Bodhi escapes again, and with the compass he reaches Tanalorr without any problems. The traitor's motive has become quite maniacal. The guy with this double life has clearly lost his mind and does not want to share the safe place with anyone, wishing to hide with his daughter on Tanalorr without any outsiders. Cal's plans for the planet are categorically not suitable for Bode. Who knows what rabble might end up on Tanalorr while fleeing from the Empire. The team follows Bode and finds another way to penetrate the planet, opening a safe passage with the Force. The Mantis flies through the abyss, and thanks to Grease's miraculous piloting, they land on the inaccessible planet. Merrin and Cal set out after the traitor. All of Cal's attempts to convince Bode to spare him fail. The traitor engages in battle, during which he occasionally comes close to harming his own daughter. As a result, Merrin is distracted by her efforts to save the girl, leaving Cal to face his former friend alone, and he begins to lose. It gets to the point where Bode nearly beats Cal to death. All of this would have ended tragically had we not once again embraced the darkness and drawn strength from it, allowing us to easily defeat Bode without crossing any moral boundaries or killing him. We grant the old friend a final chance, which Bode doesn't take, and in his attempt to shoot Cal, he himself ends up shot by the very blaster he had gifted us. Ironic. And thus, the plot of survival concludes. The Mantis crew buries their fallen friends, and Tanalorr is now open to all those in need through the hidden path organized by our deceased comrades. Meanwhile, Cal is clearly no longer just a Jedi. I hope you found this interesting, and that's all for now.